Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Post Crisis Chat. I'm your co host, Cookie, and with me, as always, is the ever lovely, ever hairy, my co host.
Hi, this is Randy here. If you're a first-time viewer, welcome. Please remember to like the video and please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload next week's episode. We want to tell you all about Swamp Thing. We're enjoying the series so much.
We really are, and I know this sounds like a lot. It's not, though. It's such a small thing to do. You don't have to do much, just click a couple buttons, and you're going to help us grow in more ways than one. I mean, we have a huge channel, make lots of money, become famous. If you're not a first viewer, and you're coming back, then hey, welcome back, man, or woman, whoever. We're always happy to have you people here, and we want to enjoy you.
Please also be advised, we are talking about spoilers. Spoilers that are decades old. But I did want you to be aware, if you don't want to know what's going on in Swamp Thing number 34, then you might want to pause the video, go read it, and then come back and check it out. The issue we're talking about today is number 34. It was written by Alan Moore, pencils by Steve Bissette, and inks by John Totleben. I'm so glad you're holding that up because the first thing I wanted to talk about was this cover. My gosh, this cover is gorgeous. It was done by the inker of this issue, John Totleben. I just want to know why we can't get Totleben doing more than inking.
I don't know. See, the interesting thing to me was I was going to say before you told me that I honestly thought
Oh my god, that's the worst thing ever. I honestly thought,
this
and then
might
you
have been
cut
Charles.
out. You're back now.
Okay, I'm back now. Okay, so anyways, I was going to say that that's the thing that you said it was the inker because I thought it was Charles Vess who did the cover on this issue.
Well, I am pulling my
That
information from the internet. It is entirely possible it's wrong. If it is wrong and you know better, let us know in the comments, please.
you're probably right. To me, the art style reminds me a lot of Vess. So, so I assumed that's who it was.
Understood. Something interesting, this issue is called The Rite of Spring, and I actually learned that that's a reference to Stravinsky's ballet of the same name. And based on my research, the ballet has something to do with the elders of a village making a young woman dance herself to death as a pagan ritual to the god of spring. And I thought that was just really interesting, which we talked before about all the outside influences that Moore pulls into a story, and I thought that one was really cool.
Actually, is kind of very interesting because I did not know any of that, and it makes sense because I mean he's into a lot of weird stuff, so it kind of tracks. I mean, I got some interesting thoughts about this issue, quite a few interesting thoughts actually. So when we dive into it, I'm ready to go.
Good deal. So we open the book with spring came and everything in the world woke up. Well, except for Matt Cable, who's still in a coma after saving Abby's body. See our earlier episodes for more on that. And then we get that juxtaposition between Matt in a state of coma and everything outside the window of Matt's hospital room waking up with life. Personally, I feel this is like some really good writing on the part of Moore. He just nailed that difference between the two.
He really did. I mean, he's a really good writer, and this kind of shows how good of a writer he is because he gets very wordy in this issue, and his descriptions are very poetic. And that's one of the things I really love about Moore when he does gets into that like poetic style of writing.
I agree. As much as I don't like some poetry in my comic books, talking specifically about the demon here, see some of the early episodes for that. Basically, when Moore does it and it's not quite so forced, I totally agree with you. The next thing we see is Abby leaving the hospital. The narrator tells us that she knows where she really wants to be. The next page, we get a full page splash of Abby sitting in the swamp with Swamp Thing. The animals on this page look amazing to me. I mean, they look so good. And then Abby's face looks like she's having a stroke. Swamp Thing isn't much better. After seeing what other artists can do on this book, I've got to be honest, Bissette's work is just really ruining it for me.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for this issue, because as we delve deeper into it, the panel work in this book just becomes phenomenal. Really impressed, especially for the time that this was coming out. It felt very experimental.
All right, I can't wait to get into that. We do see that Swamp Thing has some flowers growing on him, and Abby asks if she can take one. Swamp Thing says to go ahead. Abby puts the flower in her hair and mentions that she likes the way Swamp Thing looks best in spring. She's been with him in the swamp for a full year at this point in Moore's run. She first mentioned how Swamp Thing turned colors as autumn came on, and I really enjoy that Moore has been keeping up with the seasons as the story has gone on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's going to play a pretty important part into future storylines at some point. Like he's kind of teasing us with stuff that's coming up. Just because from what I know of more, like other books I've read and what we've read so far of this, it feels like there's nothing that's ever just thrown away. Everything is kind of put in place for a reason.
That's an interesting point, and I have read this before. I didn't quite study it as closely as we are to make these videos, but I don't recall anything like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing if that's something I missed. Then Abby says some of the most dreaded words in the human language. We need to talk. Abby is concerned she is having romantic feelings for someone who is not her husband. She's a married woman, and she's concerned that it would be wrong to love someone else. Swamp Thing tells her she is too young and beautiful to be a widow forever. I thought that wording was interesting. He calls her a widow. Matt Cable's still alive, although he's on life support and probably brain dead. So, I don't know. Is she a widow? I'm not talking about in the legal sense either.
Would consider it, yeah. I mean, especially the fact that it's like they weren't really in the place relationship wise before everything happened.
That's true.
So, I mean, it does seem kind of messed up to like leave your significant other while they're in a medical condition. In this case, I kind of feel like you get a little bit of a pass.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. Swamp Thing says that he supports her in her feelings and she should tell whoever it is how she feels. So she does. She tells Swamp Thing she's in love with him. Swamp Thing seems completely shocked by this. Abby says, "Oh, for God's sake, who else?" Which, when she said that, I smiled. I thought that was a cute moment.
It kind of was because it is kind of like, from a reader's perspective, who else has been around, really? I mean, it's not like she fell in love with Etrigan.
Yeah, exactly. And we knew it was Swamp Thing. It's just interesting to see how Swamp Thing is so oblivious to it. And I think that kind of harkens back to the way he's kind of been disconnected from his humanity, even though he was never really human. He's got those Alec memories in his head. So maybe that disconnection from his humanity kept him from realizing that Abby was falling in love.
That's kind of what I took from it, was that he probably was an oblivious guy beforehand too. So it's like between that and then the disconnect from humanity. And then, I mean, as he will eventually probably bring up later on, they're kind of two different species in a sense.
That's true. And actually, that's a really good lead into next we see Abby's insecurities bubble to the surface. Once again, thinking she's ruined everything by telling Swamp Thing how she feels. She questions how Swamp Thing could ever love her. Swamp Thing says he has loved her deeply and silently for years. That is an interesting revelation.
That's one of those things where I kind of feel like it would be very important for people who have read this series for a long time, because they probably know why, or like maybe they've caught on to these feelings that have been dropped over the years. But for us, I mean, we're picking it up with Alan Moore's run, so we kind of saw it a little bit. But I would be actually very interested to find out in previous runs, was this something that was kind of building for a while, and Moore was the first one to pull the trigger?
Here's one thing I was thinking about. We saw the first issue of the original Swamp Thing an issue or two ago. And in that
Yeah,
issue, the woman was married to the man who became Swamp Thing, and then the best friend came in later. In this case, it almost seems like the woman was married to the best friend to begin with, and then Swamp Thing came in later. It was an interesting dichotomy there between the first issue and this one.
that's an interesting catch, actually. I didn't think about that, but that's kind of a good point. I wonder if that's something Moore kind of caught on to. And is that why we kind of got that one issue where we did have the kind of flashback to the very first appearance?
That's an interesting point. He may have done that to remind us that he's going all the way back to the beginning and mining that beginning story for more things. At that point, though, Swamp Thing and Abby, they start to talk about, what's a physical relationship going to look like? Swamp Thing is concerned a kiss would be unpleasant for Abby, but she goes for it anyway. I just wanted to say the art on their first kiss is bad. Like, that art just looks awful to me, but I think it's saved by the coloring. The well placed yellow in the background when they embrace makes up for the rest of what is otherwise a muddy picture. Um, we find out that Abby actually enjoys the kiss. I almost felt a little bad for intruding in on their private moment like this.
I didn't get that part at all. I fact that he keeps hinting, or not even hinting, he's throwing out these little nods to Swamp Thing as a plant and like being so connected with the green that it's like the kiss tasting like a lime. I mean, that's something that's really kind of cool because it's like he's a plant. So it's like, but he's not just a plant. He's connected to this entire spectrum of the earth, basically, like the green. So he can pull on all these different aspects. He can create yams that probably taste like pumpkins or something. It's like this, he's really going into depth of like the powers of Swamp Thing, but just dropping little bits of it here with like, oh, okay, your lips taste like a lime. It's a complete throwaway power.
That's really interesting. I hadn't picked up on that, but you're absolutely right. That is a way of showing off what Swamp Thing can do. Did you have any thoughts on the art? Did you think it was as bad as I did?
I didn't see a problem with the first kiss. I just rely on the panel work on this because it's like it's like a two-page spread. I mean, for people who are looking, they want to say, this is what we're looking at here. Brief little shot. So it's like a two-page spread, and the pacing I thought was pretty good. And then when you get down to the bottom, and you get that big circle with them actually going for the kiss, and then the full embrace in the yellow, I thought the colors again, background goes from blue to pink to yellow to like a limeish green when they're talking about the kiss being like a lime and the background itself is kind of a lime shade of green. There's, I don't know, like it just kind of everything about this page works for me.
I think the coloring saved us. I think that's exactly what happened. Is it was good coloring and it saved the bad line work. Anyway,
You're pickier on artwork than I am too, though.
that's true. Then the two of them have a discussion about other needs that Abby might have, like how would sex work. Abby confesses that sex isn't really a big deal to her, and I can understand why she might feel that way because of what happened between Abby and her uncle in Matt's body. See our previous episodes for more information on that relationship.
And then see a therapist.
Yeah, exactly. Swamp Thing insists that there has to be some sort of communion between them, which is interesting to me that he uses, at least what is to me, religious. We don't see a whole lot of those from Swamp Thing.
I very rarely ever heard sex referred to as a communion. And I've got to admit, it is going to make going to church in the future a little awkward when they start like offering communal wine. I would be a little questioning of like, okay, what is in this wine?
He asked Abby to wait a moment, and then he pulls a yam from inside his body, washes it off, and hands it to Abby. This is not the first time we've come across Swamp Thing's yams, and no, that is not a euphemism for anything. She questions what to do with it. Does he think she should eat it? And she seems really hesitant there.
Okay, the one thing I do have to kind of throw out there is like, even though you don't intend it to be a euphemism, whatever, I'm terrible at pronouncing words. It at the same time, this whole issue feels like that's exactly what this is.
I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
I remember a story about Neil getting an issue of Sandman. I believe it was the Serial Killers Convention. And he got a note back from editorial saying that they were not allowed to mention masturbation in the DC universe. So I had to cut that out. This is a few years before Sandman. I kind of wonder, was this a thing of they're not allowed to actually discuss or show characters having sex So Moore had to go around it in a creative way of like, okay, they're gonna have sex, but I can't actually just, show them bumping greens here.
I see what you mean about this being symbolism for them having sex, but I don't know, maybe this is just more being a really good writer. I like how Abby's going to be uncomfortable given the circumstances of what happened, and so they found another way. So maybe it is a mandate from editorial at the same time as Alan Moore just being the brilliant writer that he's being. Swamp Thing worries that eating the yam will somehow disturb Abby, but she's adventurous and decides she's here for it. She takes a bite and seems to really enjoy the taste. And then she proceeds to get high, like really, really high.
Yeah, like not she's not high, she's high as hell. This is like this is like Snoop Dogg level high we are talking here.
Yeah, she is, well, I would say tripping balls, but she didn't exactly have that piece of equipment. You know what I mean. Anyway,
She's tripping yams. She's
there you
tripping
go.
yams.
Tripping yams. So we get a really cool piece of art after that is so poorly drawn. It's a page where the best way to read the page is to actually rotate the comic book. I freaking love when comic books use the medium in this way, where you have to rotate the book or where you have to hold the book up to a light to see the complete picture. And I mean, I love it so much, and it's ruined by this awful art. The only saving grace from this art is once again the coloring. I think the coloring saved the art because the line work is just awful.
I didn't mind the art so much because they were going more psychedelic with it, and then there was a lot of things in here that kind of felt like I don't want to say it's not nostalgic, but it like almost had like this. It made me think of another character. The way that they're drawing Abby in this almost goddess state kind of reminds me a little bit of what is the name of the character? The Black Orchid. That was also a Vertigo series for a brief period in the 90s, I believe.
Which character?
Black Orchid.
I'm not
Uh,
familiar.
She was originally like a 70s character, also had like a plant motif to her. And then they kind of revamped her for Vertigo. I think Neil Gaiman kicked it off with a miniseries. I do not recall who took over the actual series when they brought it back as a series. I remember it was Vertigo, and the way they drew her was a lot like the way Abby looks in this. Has this, but she was purple. That was the only difference. And Abby's white right here, but she's kind of have that goddess look with the hair kind of like extending out, and it just has this real, I don't know, there's like this real psychedelic cool vibe going on with this piece that I really enjoyed for some reason. And then the last panel seems very, very suggestive. I left that up for people. Maybe we can have our editor throw in a picture of it if he can find it. Can you see it right there?
It's a little low. That's the most suggestive part. There you go.
There you go. You see it?
Yep.
That looks a little, that kind of reminds me a little bit of the famous Jim Steranko panel from Nick Fury.
I'm not
I don't
familiar
know if
with
you
that
remember that
either.
one.
I'll have to look
That
it
was
up
the
when
one
we
they were
get
gonna.
done. Abby, just completely tripping at this point. Swamp Thing reveals to her this is how he sees the world sometimes. Abby is amazed by it and she loves it. At this point, I'm going to say the more I look at it, the more I feel like I may have misjudged Bissette's art under these circumstances. I maybe gave him a little bit too much crap. I take back what I said before about the art being just bad. This is maybe one place where his style of minimalist, rushed art actually looks at least appropriate, if not good. So I think I was being a little harsh on him before. And then we get to see Bissett draw an entire page of mostly animals. I want to say I bet that made him really happy that he got to do that. And that page looks pretty good.
That page is fantastic. The layout with the two black panels on the side that are the eyes, and it's like one you've got the electricity kind of coming out of the eyeball. The other one looks like it's almost like crying blood, but in this weird pattern. The whole layout of this page is just amazing looking.
And again, it's more with the eyes. And I want to go back for a moment and mention something I said before. Swamp Thing sees the world this way sometimes completely on his own. I mean, How awesome does that have to be? Is like ideally he could just turn it on and off. It's like, okay, I want to see the world in trippy psychedelic colors right now, and boom, it just happens.
It's almost like this is the epitome of what they talk about with enlightenment, of what people who don't really understand what enlightenment is, when you kind of have that misconception of thinking like, oh, you become enlightened and then like the streets are paved with gold and you see, all this weird stuff around you because suddenly your third eye is open. That's essentially what I am kind of getting from what Swamp Thing is seeing here, is like that's what you would want to see, of being able to like basically pick out like the atoms and the microbes and all these things floating in the sky, and see like the basic molecular structure of every human being walking past you. It's like it's incredible thought process to kind of go through that.
Yeah. And I also wanted to mention that in addition to maybe being a little hard on Bissett before and his artwork and what it looks like, I mean, we get to this giant full page spread, and I mean, it's really growing on me. I feel like this is more the type of work that he should be doing, because this fits his style much better than the realistic stuff that he's trying to do in most of the rest of the book. I mean, I've got to be honest, that two-page spread, do you have it there? Can you hold it up for a second? The one where she's in the earth?
This one you're talking about?
No, it's a different one. The one where she's in the earth.
Oh, is it this one here?
Yes, although on my okay, I thought that was a two-page spread. Apparently it's only one page because I was reading electronically when I read this. But this page is perfection. And I mean, you want to talk about suggestive, look at where she is compared to the earth.
Yeah, the whole thing here is just, I don't know if you caught, but the picture of Swamp Thing on the right hand side, that her is Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing has breasts. So I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be her.
I see what you mean. I don't think I caught that the first time around. This is what Bissett should do all the time. This is amazing. I am blown away by the single page that he did. Anyway, I'm going to stop gushing.
This whole issue to me is like that. It's just really, really well done. It's written, and the artwork goes very, very well with Moore's writing. Like even the next page, when we get into like that, like when they start talking about the rats and everything, like there's some creepy looking artwork in that issue, or those panels and stuff.
I'm looking at the page now. I'm not a huge fan of the rats. They're okay. That left portion, though, that's like Abby upside down with the third eye thing going on, uh, that's amazing. That blows me away. The rats, yeah, they're kind of creepy, but they're the low point on the page for me personally.
I think the low point is like the last panel. The last panel, just because it's more of the background than it is the actual images, like with the bugs and then the rat. And I don't know what that thing is at the bottom. It's like a worm coming out of like some kind of void or
It's
dimensional portal or something.
it's more suggestiveness.
Oh, that's very suggestive. I mean, we know exactly what that.
Now, one thing I did find interesting about this is Abby gets a tour of the planet through Swamp Thing's point of view, which to me is actually really cool. It gives us a lot of context on how Swamp Thing sees the world, and it's really interesting seeing things from his point of view, and I wonder why we don't get that more
I
often.
could do too, because I kind of feel like if they would have went full trippy on this series of like giving us more stuff like this, it would be very, very interesting. I'm assuming that it was editorial kind of pulling them back a little bit,
Hmm.
because I know like a lot of his independent stuff, like the book he did for ABC through Wildstorm, Promethea, that was like a very, very trippy book. He works with J.H. Williams on that title, and it gets. I mean, like you see that essentially everything you're seeing in like this issue of Swamp Thing, that's essentially the entire series of Promethea.
I haven't read too many psychedelic looking books. The most recent one I read was Absolute Martian Manhunter, which
Mm.
made me realize that I kind of love the psychedelic artwork and the trippy artwork and the way that works. So I definitely want to see more of that. I'm looking, especially when we start reading Shade the Changing Man. I've heard it's the art on that is very trippy. Also, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I am too.
Now, I wanted to call out this page where we see all the different scenes with all the different animals and life being born. And then at the bottom, we get Abby and Swamp Thing face to face. I didn't pick up on this the first time around. I've just been flipping through as we've been talking about it to reference it. But I love this art on the bottom of this page. You see what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, no, that is really cool looking. And again, to me, it seems very suggestive. If you look at the look on Abby's face, and she's got sweat coming down her forehead.
Yep. Swamp Thing, the look on his face is kind of similar.
Uh huh. To me, this feels like more new. I cannot show them having sex, but I'm going to get around it. He basically gave us a full issue that is analogy for two people humping.
It is. It absolutely is. So finally, Abby comes down right after
Phrasing.
that suggestive page, um, and asks Swamp Thing if that means they're going steady. I laughed at that. I was like, 1950s verbiage, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It kind of showed Abby's more simplistic view of things, which is tells us a lot about her.
definitely. Again, like if we're going to throw out the suggestiveness, this issue, Abby looks like she's basically drenched at the moment. Her top is halfway off. And I could
Mm.
swear it's kind of weird that not the very bottom panel, but the one above looks like she has no pants on. And then suddenly in the last panel, she has pants.
Think that is a coloring mistake in the original book.
I believe so as well. But at the same time, I mean, you kind of wonder.
In my version, her very out of place leg is blue.
But again, maybe that's something that they went back and fixed because they didn't want it to be very suggestive.
Could be. We kind of move to the end of the book. They kiss again. The final full page spread of Abby and Swamp Thing kissing in the swamp as the sun sets behind them and the vines from the ground wrap around one of Abby's legs. And this is reminiscent to me of when Woodrue wrapped vines around Abby's leg to drag her somewhere in one of earlier issues. See one of our previous videos for that. But I really like how Moore threw that in as a way of calling back to that scene. It was a horrible thing to have happen to Abby at the time, but in contrast, we get another issue later where it's one of the most loving and romantic things in the world. Maybe this is a sign that Abby is starting to heal from all her trauma.
Which would also kind of make sense with the rites of spring, too, because spring is a season of rebirth. And this is sort of the rebirth of Abby
Mm,
between leaving Matt behind, falling for Swamp Thing now, maybe leaving her traumatic past behind. There's a lot of symbolism within this issue.
for sure. And don't worry, Abby, there's much more trauma to come. I personally gave this issue 4 out of 5 psychedelic Swamp Thing yams. I never thought I'd actually rate a Bissette issue that high because of how much I normally dislike his art. But in this circumstance, his art was actually really good, and he should absolutely do more psychedelic art. And Alan Moore's storytelling is 100% on point.
I'm actually going to give this one, I've only done this like maybe once or twice. I'm going to give this one another 5. I read this issue at like 6 in the morning, this morning, tired, exhausted, like getting ready to have to go to work and like not looking forward to having to read before doing the show. Before I knew it, I was done. I was like, oh my God, this is really good. So to me, it's like if you can suck me into a book that well, where I just forget the world around me, I'm just so invested into the title. I got to give you a high mark, and that for me, that's a 5 right now on this issue.
All right. I understand and I respect your rating. I don't 100% agree because I think some of the art is lacking, but I will say I think art wise, my favorite issue so far. At this point, we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We are really glad that you're here watching with us. We do this for the love of the comic.
Please join us on Patreon, where we have our post crisis chat book club for our members. They get their say on the book we'll read those comments on the channel when we record them.
And also, don't forget to click the description for links to our Amazon affiliate page. You can pick up the book we were reading tonight in various formats. You have single trade paperback. You can get a box set of the trade paperbacks, and the box set of the trade paperbacks is incredibly affordable. It works out to something like $8 a book, or a little less than that if you get the entire box set. You can get it in the giant size absolute format, which I really love because you can really see all the detail in the artwork. And I think that at least this one issue would lend itself really well to that giant sized artwork in the Absolute Edition. And when you click on our Amazon affiliate link to make the purchase, a little bit of that money comes back to the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So it's a really great way to support the channel by buying something you are interested in anyway.
Exactly. And if you're anything like me and you're just absolutely obsessed with a YouTube channel, and we're hoping you're obsessed with us and you just
Mhm.
can't get enough, then you can follow us on Blue Sky. The link is in the description down below. We will be announcing when we post new episodes. And also, we would really appreciate it if you would like this video, slap that like button, smack around that subscribe, and comment on the video as soon as you do those things, because that's also going to help our channel grow. Drop those comments as soon as we drop our episode.
Absolutely. And one last thing, I want to give a big shout out to our editor, Nacho.
Yes, big, big shout out. We could not do this without you, Big Daddy.
So we're at the sign off phrase, and we still don't have one.
Yeah, I don't know what to do for a sign off phrase. I mean, we could do good night and good luck. We could do, it's a lot of things we can do. Eventually, hopefully, we'll have fans, like a lot of fans that are going to suggest stuff for us.
I hope your week is as excellent as Abby's day was when she ate Swamp Thing's yam. No, that's too long. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.